All right, I think we're live. Let's just check. Yes, indeed, we are live. It's just gonna be a few minutes. Let me just make sure that everybody is notified. Let's see. Okay. Hey guys, it's just gonna be a few minutes before we get started. Just need to send out the announcement everywhere. Okay, that should be good. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm going to change the screen. Gary, let me know if you can see my screen now. Uh, can you see it now? Yeah. No, we just went live. Hey guys, it's just gonna be a few minutes. Hey guys, just gonna be a few minutes. Let me know in chat if you can hear me. Okay. All right. We just are waiting on a few people before we get started. It's gonna be me and Max today, guys. Brian is off because of Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody that's celebrating. I know that in a few countries, including my own, the Christmas is celebrated actually on the 7th of January, so a bit later. But yeah, for everybody that's celebrating it today, Merry Christmas to you. Um, let's just take a few more minutes and then we can get this show on the road. Okay, vocals are good. Thank you, Jaren. That's all I needed to hear, man. Merry Christmas, Cody. Hope you're spending it with your family. And hope that Bitcoin is gonna give us some Christmas action as well. We're gonna talk about Bitcoin quite a bit today, guys. Mainly because we were seeing some quite encouraging signs. Not necessarily, we're not sold in sentiment. We're not sold on Bitcoin maybe doing another leg up in the next week before the New Year's Eve, but it actually wouldn't be completely out of the question. So we're going to take a look at a bunch of different fundamentals today. We're going to take a look at social data, on-chain data, and derivatives there for Bitcoin. And what you're going to see is you're going to see people kind of starting to calm down a little bit. And usually that's a pretty good sign for Bitcoin. You don't want to invest in BTC when there's too much hype, because usually that's when we either see a start of a price consolidation or a price correction. But and that's what we saw here. So I'll show a bunch of charts which will kind of prove that here we saw a lot of, like at the beginning of a consolidation, we saw too much hype, too much FOMO, and a rising sell side pressure. All of those things are now starting to normalize. There are a few sort of concerning signals yet still, and that's fine. But overall, we are now slightly moving into a more neutral territory as far as sentiment is concerned, both investor and crowd sentiment, and that's usually a good time to look into a possible position. Can you also talk about the Ripple scandal? Yes, we can. I have a few metrics that I wanted to show, so I'm not going to talk too much about the like the specific accusations, because to be honest, I've spent most of this week working on our end of year report, so I haven't really kept up on exactly what the SEC said, why they deem it the security, how strong their arguments are. I haven't really took a huge look into it, but I have yesterday during our team call said that I think Bitcoin Ripple is going to bounce, and it did bounce today. And there's a reason why I said it, and so I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 charts that I saw yesterday that made me think that Ripple is due for a bounce back. Because obviously, when you see something like this, right, it's usually just the market overreacting and overcorrecting. So it could have just kind of kept this level for the time being, but it bounced back very quickly. And I'll show you why I think that happened. There's a few charts on our site that made me think that our Ripple bounce back is likely. And indeed it was. So, okay, let me see if Max is here. Max, are you with us? If you are, please say something so that we can. Okay, good, good. Let's just make sure that everyone in chat can hear Max. So we probably are on like a 20-second delay. So if you can just confirm that you can hear Max in chat, and then we can get this show on the road. Max, say something again for me. Testing, testing, or something. Okay. It seems like you're not getting through. Let's just make sure that. Yeah. One sec.
Maybe it will get through now.
Okay, now you should be able to hear
Max. Yeah, you see. See, always helps.
Yeah. So Caldex is saying I can't hear Max. Now I changed a few things in OBS and now it should be good. Sorry about a bit of a technical issues at the start of the stream, guys. A lot of people from the team are just away for Christmas, so it's just me and Max and Gary today. So I'm taking care of both the streaming part and the sort of discussion slash exposition part. So it's gonna be a bit of back and forth. Please give me a little bit of your patience this today, because it's gonna be a challenge juggling a few different things at the same time. All right, thanks a lot, Caldex, for letting us know. So we can get started, I think. All right, so the topic of today's call is, can Bitcoin make another push to end 2020? We are going to try to focus on 3 main topics today. The first one is going to be Bitcoin. The second one is going to be a little bit on Ethereum, and then the third, like I mentioned already, and like Andre asked, we are going to briefly discuss Ripple and a few metrics which we thought were very interesting yesterday and indicative of a potential recovery for Ripple or XRP token. After that, as we always do in these streams, if you have specific tokens that you would like us to look into, anything that you are sort of interested in to end the year, any particular altcoin that you want us to look into on-chain or social data for, do some very quick impromptu analysis on the stream, just let us know in chat and we'll get to it. We'll get to it at the end of the stream. So about like 30 or 40 minutes from now, we'll get into audience questions and audience participations, questions. All right, so let's start with Bitcoin. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, for those of you who weren't there, in the past couple of days, we have been seeing some I'm not going to say very, but we have been seeing some positive or optimistic signs for Bitcoin's short-term price action. All right, so it's going to be, we should start with social data to kind of show you where we were a week ago and how the sentiment of the crowd and the sentiment of Bitcoin holders and investors has changed over the last 10 days. All right. So let's start with just the basic social volume. So for those of you that are not familiar with this metric, it's something that is exclusive on the Santiment platform on Sandbase. Basically, you go to any coin and you click on social volume here, and what you'll get in return is the amount of mentions of that particular coin on over 1,000 different crypto social media channels. So we have our own data set that we have been maintaining and adding to for over 3 years now. And what you see here is basically like Google Trends, but for crypto. So we only track crypto dedicated social channels, including Telegram groups, Discord channels or servers, crypto subreddits, and so forth. So what you see here, for example, on December 18th and 19th, has been a massive spike in the amount of mentions of Bitcoin on crypto social media, which makes perfect sense because obviously we just broke an all-time high. We broke 20K for the first time in Bitcoin's history. If we look at the last year of data, you can see that this has been quite a substantial spike in Bitcoin mentions. It's actually been the biggest spike, the highest spike in Bitcoin's mentions since the time that we actually broke 10K. So obviously a very strong sort of reaction of the crowd to the move, as you would expect, right? Now, what usually occurs at these types of events and at these types of spikes in social volume and sort of social hype spikes is that we see a period of price consolidation or price sort of retraction. So we've seen that at as soon as we broke 10K as well. This massive spike in Bitcoin social volume coinciding with the beginning of a month-long consolidation. We've seen a similar thing with the May 2020 top. And then we've seen several some short-lived spikes, which kind of pointed to short-lived tops for Bitcoin as well. Now, this is only the amount of total mentions of Bitcoin over time, right? So obviously, that's a good thing to know. But at the same time, this metric doesn't tell us exactly what the crowd was feeling at this point in time. It doesn't tell us whether these mentions were positive, whether people are saying FOMO, buy a Lambo, moon, or whatever other, phrases you want to use, or if they were very concerned about Bitcoin breaking this all-time high barrier and were, calling for sells. So to figure that out, we go into our social sentiment metrics. And let me scroll all the way down so you can see this particular chart. It's one of my favorite charts on the platform. It's called weighted social sentiment. So I know it sounds kind of like a mouthful, and we need to make a better job of figuring out how to name it in the future. But this particular chart shows the total or average sentiment or mood towards a particular coin on crypto social media. So all of these hundreds and thousands of messages that we get on a daily basis, we collect them and we parse them through an algorithm, a machine learning algorithm, which labels these messages as either positive, negative, or ambivalent, right? And we've been doing this for almost over 2 years now. So you can see the start of our data or of our social sentiment data. And spikes above 0 and into 1 and 2 standard deviations from the mean. So basically these massive positive spikes usually point to rising bullish sentiment towards Bitcoin in this particular case, although we have this for all coins on our platform. And then these dips into bearish territory basically point to rising FUD about a particular coin, in this case BTC. So what we have seen in the last 2 years in particular has been these spikes in social sentiment usually coinciding with short-term tops or sometimes even short-term or mid-term price corrections for BTC. So we can see both of these tops in June and July of 2019 coinciding with a short-term price correction for Bitcoin, and then obviously into a bearish season. And then we have seen the same thing happening even before the Black Thursday dump. We've seen a very bullish sentiment towards BTC as it was kind of ranging around the 10K mark, coinciding with the correction. And then this was the May halvening, which obviously kind of didn't really pan out for a lot of people. And this I think is in part because there was such a huge amount of FOMO around the coin at that time. And then once we broke 10K again, we had a massive spike in bullish sentiment coinciding with the local consolidation period. So actually, if you zoom in a bit, you'll see that we were very bullish on BTC here around November 25th. So basically about a month ago, right? As it was kind of finally reaching this 18, 19K mark, close to an all-time high. And it wasn't until we dipped into bearish territory that we were really able to bounce back and break the all-time high barrier, right? So in general, while this is obviously not a perfect measure, in general, what we've seen in the past couple of years for Bitcoin and for a lot of different cryptocurrencies is that bullish social sentiment is not a friend for digital assets, at least not in the short term. When you see these massive spikes in both social volume, which is this metric, and spikes in social sentiment, which is this metric, that usually points to periods of peak hype. It points to the fact that the crowd is feeling super bullish about a coin. They're irrationally confident about its short-term and mid-term price potential, and therefore it's usually a good time to look for an exit opportunity. Now, we have seen Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Is it possible to make your screen visible in our Google Meet?
Yes, it is. One sec. I forgot to present it. Good looking out, Gary. All right. You should be able to see it now, right?
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for the shout out. Actually, a good idea. So in the past couple of days, we have seen this massive spike in Bitcoin related sentiment, obviously as we broke all-time high, which was concerning for us. And I think last week we talked about if these levels remain, if we don't see a normalization of Bitcoin related sentiment, we might be headed for a stronger correction than what we've actually seen in the last week. Luckily, as with the social volume, which has been trending downwards, pointing to the fact that the crowd has kind of been cooling off a little bit, we have also been seeing a decline in relative, and I can smooth this out a bit less so you can actually see that the dip is even more impressive than it looks. We have seen a strong decline in terms of the relative sentiment towards Bitcoin in the past 5 days. So now we are actually on average at a just slightly bearish sentiment. So once again, as far as Bitcoin social data is concerned, we are currently back into a sort of the territory where we want to be, a territory which allows us room to grow and provides opportunity for another leg up. Now, this isn't only limited to Bitcoin social data. So this is just the first sort of part of our analysis that I wanted to cover. I also wanted to cover derivatives data. So at the moment, we have integrated BitMEX's perpetual contract funding rate on Sandbase. So here what you can actually see is the amount of is the average sentiment of the derivative investors towards Bitcoin. So the funding rate is essentially a fee. You can read the full description here. It's a fee that's paid by one side of the perpetual contract to the other. Very simply put, when the funding rate is positive, like here and like here and like here, so basically at these sort of local tops, when the funding rate is positive, that means that on average, Bitcoin longs are paying Bitcoin shorts. And then on the other hand, when the funding rate is negative, like we've seen during the September consolidation, that means on average Bitcoin shorts are paying Bitcoin longs, which means here the market is very bearish and here the market is quite bullish. And usually, even if you can see this on a 6-month scale, you can see that overly bullish sentiment isn't necessarily a great thing. Once again, similar to social data, isn't a great thing for Bitcoin. We have seen a string of spikes in terms of bullish sentiment here once we crossed the 10K mark and started to consolidate. We've seen a massive spike at the August or the summer top for Bitcoin here on August 17th. We've seen another spike before a market-wide correction. And then we've seen several sort of local tops here, as well as here, coinciding with Bitcoin's with spikes in Bitcoin's funding rate, right? Basically pointing to the fact that on average, derivative investors are super bullish on BTC. Over the last couple of days, we are still sort of into in a relatively bullish territory as far as the derivative markets are concerned and as far as the funding rate is showing, but it has been declining and it has been normalizing back to these sort of balanced levels. So what we want to see, both in terms of Bitcoin's funding rate and Bitcoin's social volume and sentiment, is we want to see this decline continue. We want to see both the crowd and investors start to take a chill pill, not really be super hopeful about Bitcoin's short-term price potential, because that's usually in the past shown to be a period that allows Bitcoin's price to grow, right? So we want to see this particular chart, Bitcoin sentiment, continue to dip into negative territory, like it did here, like it did here, and like it did here after the Black Thursday dump as well. And then we want to see the funding rate. Well, it's probably not going to go all the way down here unless we see a major correction, but we would definitely want to see the funding rate kind of be at this sort of flatlining moment or slightly below it, basically pointing to just a smidge of a bearish sentiment on average as far as BTC is concerned. So before I move into on-chain analytics for Bitcoin and why I think some of them are very interesting, Max, anything you want to add on what we're currently covering?
Maybe later. Maybe I will just also give a few additional angles, how to see it, but it's like, you know, I like holistics.
Yep.
And it's good. Christmas time, good for holistic.
Indeed, good for self-reflection and market reflection as well. All
yes.
right. Yeah. So, okay, then I'm gonna move into on-chain data and a few particular points of contention. So the number one thing that I wanted to show is the amount of Bitcoin moving to exchanges over the last 10 days. So no surprise here. This was, I think, if it wasn't the highest, it was the second highest since the Black Thursday. The second highest spike, and this is, I think, on a 12-hour interval, if you move it to one day. Yeah, it's the second highest spike in the amount of Bitcoin being moved to known exchange wallets since the Black Thursday down, which was obviously just a mass exodus of funds, right? So at this point in time, these types of spikes usually tend to indicate a rise in sell-side pressure, especially if they happen during these sort of periods of price rallies, right? And in general, very often, not just for Bitcoin, but for other cryptocurrencies as well, they do tend to coincide with periods of, you know, shaky price action and upcoming price volatility, just because this amount of sell-side pressure. So this was, let me show you exactly how much. This was almost 500,000 Bitcoin being moved to exchanges in a span of one day here. These types of levels usually point to a rising sell-side pressure that is difficult for Bitcoin bulls to absorb, especially at these price levels, right? So just think of it from your own perspective. Would you be fine with, you know, absorbing all of this sell pressure, even though you're aware that you would be buying Bitcoin at a premium, right? So how many of you bought BTC at about 23K, right? That should answer your question about how easy it is to absorb this amount of sell side pressure very quickly. So to me, it's not very surprising to see the price of Bitcoin kind of start to consolidate over the last 10 days as this sell side pressure kind of starts getting priced in and starts getting absorbed. So the good news is at least that we have seen a sort of exhaustion in the amount of BTC being transferred to exchanges and the amount of Bitcoins sort of daily sell side pressure, pointing to the fact that on average, at least, there's less sell side pressure to be absorbed on a daily level, right? Now, one sort of relatively concerning signal that I have seen, or that continues to kind of show itself on our charts, is this conglomerate of spikes in H consumed. So this you should ignore, because this particular spike is the wallets that have been tied to Silk Road being moved after years of dormancy. So for those of you that are not familiar with this metric, let's start with there. What is H consumed? H consumed is an on-chain metric that tracks the significant spikes in the activity of previously dormant coins. So basically, when you see a spike in this metric, that means that old coins that have not changed addresses for a long time, are now starting to move on the blockchain once again. And usually, long-term holders, patient and veteran investors, they don't change addresses, or they don't move coins without proper market analysis, and sometimes without intimate market knowledge. And that's why these spikes in H consume tend to coincide with both local tops and local bottoms. It generally is a volatility marker or a trend reversal marker, not just for Bitcoin, but for Ethereum and all other coins as well. So if we zoom out of this spike, you can kind of see it a bit more clearly that in the past couple of days, basically a week or so, there has been a strong uptick in the amount of BTC, old BTC, dormant BTC, that has been moving on the blockchain. There's one better even way to visualize this, and this is by looking at a 365-day circulation. So I'm going to, well, actually dormant circulation is the one that I wanted to show. All right, so this particular chart looks at, and you can see it here, it shows you how many coins which have previously not been moved on the blockchain for at least a year have been moved on a particular day. So you can see this sort of strong uptick in the activity of previously dormant Bitcoin in the last couple of days, coinciding with this sort of price volatility here. In general, this isn't necessarily the greatest sign because it does point to Bitcoin hodlers sort of being on the move and not being necessarily super confident about the coin's short-term price potential. And we can visualize that in one other way as well. And this is what Bitcoin's mean age. So Bitcoin's mean age is kind of like a token age, like an age consumed in reverse. So what this metric does is it tracks the average amount of time that every Bitcoin on the blockchain has spent in their current wallets. So what that does is that when you see this rising spike or rising slope, that means that at these times, on average, the age of Bitcoin continues to grow, meaning that they are on average not moving on the blockchain, pointing to periods of increased accumulation and hodling, right? And then on the other hand, when you see these dips, or even when you see the line of mean coin age start to plateau, like it has here during this local top here, as well as over the last couple of weeks and even a month, that points to a pivot, sorry, a pivot away from accumulation and more towards distribution. So let me zoom in a bit so you can see this a bit more clearly. Yeah, I think this is fine. Obviously, this particular spike, once again, Silk Road wallet, so you should kind of ignore it because it's not necessarily going to be tied to market behavior, right? In the past couple of days, there has been a quite serious drop, relatively speaking, a quite serious drop in Bitcoin's mean coin age, pointing to the fact that at these levels, or at this particular point in time, quite a substantial amount of previously dormant coins, or a relative amount of very old coins, has been moving on the blockchain. Which usually does tend to coincide with trend reversals. So this is something that you should be on the lookout for in the next couple of days. And this is one of the metrics that kind of makes us a bit squeamish because it does point to a risk of increased price volatility. Now, whether that price volatility is going to be upward or downward isn't really revealed by this metric. So, in general, it just tells you that likelihood of us kind of staying at these levels for an extended amount of time is lowering alongside this line, basically. All right, I'm going to show two more charts for Bitcoin, and then we can move into maybe Max wants to share something as well. So one thing that I wanted to show is network realized profit or loss. This is quickly becoming one of our favorite metrics. Basically, what it does is it tracks the overall ROI or return on investment of the entire Bitcoin network over time. So basically, when you see these spikes in network realized profit, that means that on average, holders or every coin that has been moving on the blockchain has been moving at a significant profit. Basically, everybody that has been moving bitcoins at this particular point in time, assuming that they were all moving them to sell, have been doing so at major profits. And that's why you can kind of see this network realized profit or loss kind of start to spiking very strongly after we broke the 20K mark, because a lot of people have been starting to dip into their bags and start to take some profits, shaking out some weekends. So in the past week or so, we have seen a cluster of network realized profit spikes, pointing to the fact that on average, investors or Bitcoin holders have been moving their bags or selling their bags at a significant profit. The higher this chart is, that means that the higher the profit is. And then the lower we go, especially if we dip below zero, that means that on average, holders were selling at a loss. And like I can show you right now why I thought that Ripple was going to bounce back a bit yesterday, because if you look at Ripple's realized profit or loss yesterday, you can see that for the first time in really quite a while, I think it's for the first time in like a year. Well, no, but for the first time in 6 months at least, there's been this massive drop in network realized profit or loss, pointing to the fact that on average, everybody that's been moving Ripple yesterday has been doing so, or on average at least, has been doing so at a massive loss. So pretty much everybody that accumulated here were like, nah, I'm out of this coin. Pointing to like short-term market exodus and holder capitulation. And usually these times are good, or can be, not usually, but sometimes they can be a good time to look for an entry position, right? This obviously none of this is financial advice, but we have seen these dips in network loss like here coincide with short-term breakouts, not just for Ripple, but also for i5, for Uni. I can show you a few charts afterwards if you're interested, but that's how this metric works in a nutshell. So at the moment, moving back to Bitcoin, we're seeing quite a lot of activity as far as people selling their coins at a strong profit. Now, while you might think that's actually a bad thing, if we look at the historical trends, as long as people take profits, we don't really, or we haven't seen, I can even look to last 2 years, these periods of profit taking haven't necessarily been bad for Bitcoin's price action. Usually, like we see here in February and we see here in July, and even here in July of 2019, they don't necessarily tend to impact the price of Bitcoin negatively immediately. What tends to happen instead, and I think this is a pretty good, these two are pretty good sort of points to highlight, is that once people stop taking profits here, and then once we see a sort of this ongoing decline in profit taking here, basically once again, once people become more comfortable with BTC at these levels and become more comfortable with Bitcoin rising in the short future, this is where we start seeing a potential for a correction. At the moment, we're not seeing that. We're seeing people taking healthy profits. Good. They should. We shouldn't see a whole lot of hodling and accumulating without any sort of worry. We should see a bit of market pain and market fear. And this is what this chart, I think, is showcasing quite well. So these are some of the charts that, we were looking at them today and we were like, oh, okay. Bitcoin's metrics aren't great, but it has some room for growth in the next week. So I'm going to show MVRV, but before that, Max, you want to maybe expand a little bit on network profit loss or other metrics? Let me take a sip of water in the meantime.
Yeah. No, you actually said that's good. It's always whenever we look in the market, it's a good training for our brain. We should step back and try not to do too much explanation of what happened in the past, because it's nature of our brain, explain everything what happened so far in the past, and our brain can do it anyway good. Understanding what's happening now and what is a possible move of the biggest part of participants, so that we can be ahead of them. And this understanding of what's happening now is exactly what now you didn't explain. It's like building context. Yeah, okay, taking profits. Taking profits, price increase, it's normal, okay. So I don't freak out. But if price is increasing, yeah, and no one is, or we see a decreasing amount of taking profits, this is a kind of special condition we should pay attention. And if price is increasing and we see for a long time enough established positive founding rate, yeah, this is what should raise concerns. This is this way of thinking. We check metrics, or I check metrics each day, and I can share them later, or Chile can share maybe even now my chart layout. Okay, maybe look into it.
Sure.
So you'll see.
I'll stop presenting for a moment, and you can take over the screen.
So I take the screen. You see my. It's by the way, for those who are not pro users, this is how it looks inside. Those who are pro users were updated. So on the right, there is recently which assets I checked. Not surprisingly, also Santiment. You see it, Ethereum, Bitcoin, i5, Santiment. Now, and right below there is chart layouts. Yeah, and you will see that there is Bitcoin chart layout, Ethereum chart layout, a basic set of metrics I'm keeping track of, Santiment, IFI, and this network overview can be applied to any token. Now, Bitcoin, yeah. So I open this chart layout, and you will see a set of, I think, like 7 metrics. And I needed to get the context of what people are actually doing. Yeah, on-chain, optional, social data is what people do in our token, and not the stories they're writing anyway. I don't care what anyone says or write. I want to see what's happening on data level now. And there's all the metrics which Dino just covered. Founding rate, yeah. And I like also to see a volume and both trading volume and social volume. If price increases, they should follow up. Now we see divergences. I give it a little bit time because it's weekend and Christmas. So yeah, okay, people can be talking less, or and exchanges volume can be less. But if I see this picture continues for some time, it's a concern. Then how is behavior for those big whales? Are they still accumulating? Okay, legend. Okay, good. If they're not dumping, well, I feel normal too.
Yeah, so before you continue, Max, let's just keep one moment on that chart above. So for those unfamiliar, this particular chart shows the total amount of Bitcoin that is being held by addresses that are holding between 1,000 and 10,000 BTC, right? So you can kind of see this is in percentages in terms of the percents of Bitcoin's total supply. So over the last 6 months, which is this chart, you can see that the total amount of Bitcoin that is held by basically mega millionaires, multimillionaires, Bitcoin holders between 1,000 and 10,000 BTC has grown from about 27.5% of Bitcoin's total supply to, I think, now about 29%. Yeah, 29.06%. And that's a lot. That's basically almost 2%. I think that's around $1.5 billion worth of BTC or something crazy like that. Okay, so just put that in, keep that in mind. Yeah. Sorry, Max, you can go on.
And if I want this chart, then actually you can add small players. You see that they've been selling before price really catapulted. It's normal crowd behavior. Yeah, crowd is always or tend to sell the low and buy the high. And this too, it's good to observe if we see that they start exponentially accumulate. Then it's also could be sign for top. If crowd comes back and say, okay, now I really need to buy because the next stop is 100,000, I'm sure about. Well, then you know it will not gonna happen. Yeah. So these two groups, and actually one group we already seen it, but it's kind of a bit bigger, 1 to 10 bitcoins, but still smaller group is missing. Participation, age consumed, Dino covered, and then of course network realized profit loss. This looks at the moment still healthy. Price breaking new high, where people are not sure, can we keep this territory or we'll lose it, so they fix the profits. Good. The moment they stop doing it, not good. And then some other things, maybe I will not go into details about the liquidity because for Bitcoin you need to analyze in a specific way. And then of course combined min age and min coin, min dollar and illicit age. Redistribution, it takes place. It's a good process. The moment it stopped taking place, also not good. And then, of course, also track transaction volume Bitcoin if we see some massive increase. But at the moment, actually, it looks quite healthy. So this set, and it's like I check, you know, like in the morning, you take breakfast. So after breakfast, this is what I usually pay attention to. Yeah, and on a daily level, you see, okay, this is the context of what's happening now. And of course, then reading the news. To see if it's getting fat and maybe good opportunities for people to buy and see if they really do buy. But it's a secondary. Yeah, just as you asked, Dina, I decided it's better to show my whole chart layout.
Yeah, and actually, it would be good.
Actually, it's public. I think it's even public.
Yeah, if you can share it in chat, that would be great as well, so people can just use it.
But you can only see it, I think, if you're a pro subscriber.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, maybe it will. If you can make a trial and observe it for next 2 weeks. But that's it for Bitcoin. I wouldn't say more. It looks okay at the moment. And one thing is, of course, it's now a new year, so some people fixing their profits. Others are trying to speculate, okay, if they fix, can we buy it cheaper? It will be high volatility time now. Does not mean much for the price. It's mostly a game of the big money, whoever earns more now.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Max. I took over the screen, just so you know. You can
Yes.
stop presenting.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, yeah, I think Max has shared the link in chat to the chart layout. So if you want to check it out for yourself and kind of see how Max looks at our data on a daily basis, I think that's a pretty good idea, actually. All right. That's going to be it as far as Bitcoin is concerned for today. If you have any additional questions for Bitcoin or other coins, let us know in the chat. I see somebody wants to, Heiki wants us to look into Chainlink. We can do that. And I've also seen people asking us to look into Ripple. So let's do those two. Before we do, I just wanted to give a quick tease that we have a massive 35-page report on everything that's been going on this year as far as crypto is concerned, going out today only to pro subscribers, and then in the next week or so going out to everyone. So if you want to look at what has been happening with and where Bitcoin, DeFi, Ethereum, and the ERC20 ecosystem kind of where they fit and where they stand at the moment and how they have progressed over the last year, there's a lot of very interesting new exclusive insights and calculations that we've done for this report. We are going to be sending it to everyone that has an active pro subscription later today. So there's a 2-week trial for everyone that wants to try out the platform. So if you aren't already, just go to app.santiment.net and make your own account and go into a 2-week free trial process where you can kind of take a look at the entire platform, play around with it a bit, but you'll also receive this report and a few other exclusive insights that come from the Santiment team. So just to kind of keep it as a teaser, if you want to check out what we've got in store, it's a massive 35-page report, a lot of new charts that we haven't really shown to anyone, a lot of new calculations that we've done for the first time. I think it gives a very interesting analysis and context into where we are currently at the market and how both Bitcoin and Ethereum have progressed, and whether and how much DeFi has actually recovered, which I don't think a lot of people are aware of since the summer. Those are some of the things that people haven't really been paying close attention to, is the rebound of DeFi's network activity and fundamental activity over the last 3 months. So we covered that and a whole lot of different topics in our yearly report. If you're interested, just become a pro member, even for a 2-week trial. You'll get access to this report. All right. So I want to look into Ripple a little bit because yesterday was it was one of probably the worst days for Ripple investors. Definitely feel their pain. It's never great to have your coin be this type of chart. It's never great to have your coin being investigated and accused by the SEC. Obviously, there's going to be an immediate price reaction, and you can see this in a number of different Ripple charts. So I'll show you why I thought that yesterday we are probably bottoming out. I wasn't necessarily sure that we were going to rise this quickly, but I thought at least for now we're probably done with dumping. So let's look at a few different charts for Ripple. Right? We start with social volume. Very strong reaction from the crowd. Basically, a lot of people, I think, even laughing at Ripple users. A lot of people feeling happy that this coin is, according to them, now going to go into the ground, stuff like that. This, you can even see it. The amount of Ripple hate at this part of at this time, in this point in time, was even higher than the highest spike that we saw in Ripple mentions during its 2020 rally. This is sort of how you can see that the crowd has not really just reacted, but it's overreacted to the news, especially because you still don't know all of the details, right? There's only just been, at least as far as I have seen and as far as I have read, but honestly, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I've been busy with the end of year report, so I haven't really kept track of exactly what the lawsuit implies. But not everybody knows all the details, right? So when you see these types of spikes in social volume, I think it's a classic crowd overreaction, people fighting away from XRP, which similar to spikes during price rallies, these spikes during price decreases can very often point to local bottoms forming as well. We have also seen, let me show you holder distribution for Ripple. We have seen an immediate, a very swift reaction from pretty much every single participant of the Ripple blockchain, especially when we go, yeah, so let's start with the 100 to 1000 Ripple club. Let me show you what that looks like. So we've seen, starting from here, I think pretty much every group has started to dump some of their coins. So this is 100 to 1000. This is 1000. So you'll see the similar dip happening here. Everybody that's been paying attention to Ripple knows that at this point in time, I think on December 10th, there was a snapshot that was taken for, I can't even remember, was it a Flare token? I think that's the name of the token. So pretty much Ripple had this campaign where you needed to hold a particular amount of Ripple. The more Ripple you held in your wallets, the better off, or the more Flare tokens you would receive in the future. So a lot of people stocked up on XRP in anticipation of the snapshot. And then once the snapshot was taken, people started dumping. And obviously, you know, it was a pretty easy dump to kind of predict as well. So that's why you'll also see a major sort of dip in the amount of Ripple being held by a lot of these addresses here as well. But focusing on the last couple of days, let me just show you everyone. Everyone's been dumping, baby. Everyone. There's a lot of FUD on the market right now. And then the last group has been accumulating. Now, you might think this is whales. I don't think this is whales. I think this is actually exchanges. This is the largest group, addresses holding between 10 million and infinity, or 10 million and above XRP. These are usually exchange wallets, and that's why you'll see them spike here and here as well. So basically moving away from individual addresses into exchanges. There's quite a bit of sell-side pressure. However, and you know, if you've read some of my insights, or if you've been to these calls before, you know that I don't think of exchange inflows the same way when I look at them during price rallies and during price decreases or declines, right? So for example, if I saw a massive spike in exchange inflow here, I would say, okay, I think that's probably a top. Why? Because there's a lot of rising sell side pressure and not a lot of people will be buying at these levels. But when I see, and let me zoom out a bit so you can see it more clearly. When I see this is a lot of people, this is an exchange inflow for XRP. This is a lot of people moving XRP to exchanges while it's dumping. So if there's anybody, and I think there still is, if there's people that still believe in XRP fundamentals, if there's whales that don't mind buying at a discount, this type of sell-side pressure is much more easy to absorb, because you know people are buying at a discount, people are buying the dip, and therefore when you see these types of spikes around price retractions, I think it's a much easier sort of pressure to absorb, and it's a much stronger sign of a local bottom compared to other indicators. And it's not just for XRP. Like where have I seen it as well? Was it Wi-Fi recently? Let me see. It was either Wi-Fi or Uni. Yeah. Okay. Oh, look at that. So let's do some quick analysis on IFI, right? Exchange inflow for IFI. Spike at the local bottom. So people selling their coins, thinking that IFI is going to the ground. Local bottom forms. A lot of people buying the dip. We go up. Spikes at a local bottom. We go up. Spikes at a local top, however, more difficult to absorb. Similar to here. Here we had another string of spikes. People dumping as IFI dropped below 20K. We bounce back up, right? So I thought that, you know, yeah, there's a lot of fight around Ripple, but I don't think this coin is that far from it. At least this is my opinion. So when I saw this, let me zoom back in. When I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, the bottom may be forming. Why am I? Why can't I zoom into this? One sec, guys, sorry. All right, there we go. I also want to share a few more charts. One of them is age consumed. So also, for the first time in quite a while, we saw increased activity in Ripple's age consumed, pointing to the fact that long-term XRP holders are also starting to be fearful. Okay, interesting. And then finally, we'll look at, not finally, actually, I'll show two more metrics. We'll look at network realized profit or loss. Like I said, these major dips in network realized profit or loss point to the fact that on average, if we assume that every coin that has been moved at this point in time has been moved to sell, which is a big assumption, but that's the assumption that this metric makes, then they've been selling at a quite significant loss. Usually, buy when there's blood on the streets. So this basically indicates a rising amount of pain and fear among Ripple holders, which I think is fair, obviously, but also it's, I think, too much. It's an overcorrection. It's an overreaction, and that's why once again I thought, okay, we might be headed for another sort of breakout, or at least a slight recovery. And then finally, I want to look at MVRV. We haven't really looked at MVRV today at all. It's one of our, I think, easiest metrics to show at these types of calls. What MVRV does, for those that are not familiar, is it shows the average profit or loss of a particular group of XRP, in this case, of XRP holders. So the 30-day MVRV shows the average profit or average loss of all addresses that have acquired XRP in the last 30 days. So for example, here, Ripple 30-day MVRV was 24%. That means that on average, everybody that has bought XRP in the past 30 days here were up plus 24% of their investment. That's a lot of unclaimed profits. And that's why the more or the higher the MVRV gets, the more likely it is that we are going to see a short-term correction, because people are going to start taking these profits. And then the lower we get, like we got here, super low, that means that on average, most people are realizing massive losses, and there's not a lot of incentive to sell at these points. Everybody that has wanted to sell has probably sold already. And therefore, usually, what people do, on-chain analysts, what they do is they look at previous bottoms and previous stops in MVRV to kind of figure out what are the potential danger zones. Like, for example, this would probably be a danger zone for XRP. And what are potential bounce back zones. So you can see that both in terms of short-term holders as well as Ripple's long-term holders, they've actually kind of bottomed out at the same level. The MVRV has bottomed out almost at the same level, not quite, as it has during the Black Thursday dump, pointing to the fact that a lot of people and a lot of addresses have been realizing massive losses, and usually that's, according to MVRV, can be a good time to look for an entry position. So the fact that you are underwater basically means that there's not going to be a whole lot of incentive to sell. And if there is enough buy pressure on the other hand on the other side of the aisle, that can be an interesting time to look for a position. So these are some of the things that I looked at for XRP yesterday, and I thought, okay, we might be headed for a short-term price recovery. And so far, it's been happening. Now, moving on, I would like to see, ideally, I would like to see some of these metrics, especially things like exchange inflow and social volume start to cool off a little bit. I would like to see less activity of long-term holders. I would like to see them. It's fine to see them start overreacting a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily want to see a continuous spike in age consumed, pointing to the fact that a lot of long-term XRP holders are now becoming very concerned. We'll see. It's an interesting time for the Ripple network. All right, let's look at Chainlink before we end, because we're already 50 minutes in, guys. If you have any additional...
I prepared something for Swissborg. People ask, and I made chart layout.
Oh, okay. You want to share it?
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop presenting. Take over, Max.
Okay, so there will be two parts. One is a set of charts and chart layout, and then another something new we discovered lately. It's how to track historical balance of liquidity pools, and when they're increasing, decreasing. It's very interesting tool. Actually, we used it. Or we start using it increasingly more and more for our analysis, but one by one. So when I look at Swiss broker, and there is a specific reason why I ask, is there any good news? This kind of price behavior should end up or eclipse in some great news which marks the top. The overall, I know, like pattern or structure looks like we pass the middle, and this is the middle of the rally, the highest volumes, and it's everywhere. Trading volume, you will see, what was it, like active addresses and new addresses and exchange inflow, everything eclipsed here. Yeah, so it was in Elliott wave terms, like wave 3. Now we're finishing wave 5. God knows when exactly finished, but if you're holding it, not investment advice, but I would consider looking for exit points. And if you are thinking to enter it, I would not do it, because it can increase like another 10, 20, 50% price. Doesn't matter. The next stop it will go somewhere 0.23, 0.25. This is the next point where it will start consolidating, not up. It can go up, but it will come down to somewhere here, 23, 25 cents. And then God knows, it can go even lower. And why I'm thinking so, it's exactly that most of the metrics have peaked here, and only one peaked now. A few days ago, social volume. It means crowd finally got in and it pushed price high up. But since then, even crowd social sentiment and start decreasing. Basically, it means everyone is in, or let's say 85% of potential participants are in. And I can again share the link. You can check it later on by yourself. And interesting behavior, I was checking, okay, who is accumulating, yeah? All big players, now let me remove, or relatively big players, they're like distributing, they're selling. Was this one a kind of holding, yet still holding, but it's not so big in crypto terms, up to $30,000, it's small players too. So big ones, they dumped, but now somehow believed in the rally, so start accumulating again, which is never a good sign. The same for very big, they were dumping, so say, okay, new paradigm, new future, start buying again. It's also never a good sign. This is only consistent guys. Keep selling. They don't care about anything else. So, and who've been, yeah, this one and this and this, they've been buying small fishes. And, you know, crypto market, as I told last week, it's not to reward, it's actually to wreck as frequent as possible. It gives you emotional excitement, but it's financially rarely so. So small players are now fully in. Yeah, be careful. And this is very good. This is why I like it so much. Thanks for this example. It's one of the most, I remember it's for 2017 and 18 pattern. H consumed when we see big spike. It means the early adopters who got finally their 2x, they exited it. And you see it also in network realized profits and exchange inflows. Yeah, they started exiting somewhere here. And then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The last spike, not surprisingly, on the peak. And then it stops. It means everyone took profits who wanted. And then typically it comes to the last leg. There is no selling pressure. Market can get crazy and irrational, which it does now. But this is the last leg. I've seen it so many times. Starting from here, last leg. And yeah, just look at the metrics. And actually, if you have questions and you want to talk about, you can drop in Discord and ask. I try to combine the best from what we have here on one chat setup. The same from Mincoin Age and the West Edge. The full redistribution takes place since around 10 days. Yeah, those who hold it now selling out. Good. And one interesting new thing, if you go to Uniswap, you found the token, you find it here, it's address of liquidity pool, and you go to our platform. And our platform, we have here labs, and then labs historical balance. Yeah, it's you need to search for it, but it's so powerful tool. I think it's no one else having it. Like we basically have in the background our big data pipeline, historical balances for all tokens, for all addresses. It means the whole Ethereum blockchain is so parsed that for every single address, you know, historical balance for all tokens you ever had. and it allows you to do amazing things. So now see, and I entered this liquidity pool for Swissblock, and I selected these 2 tokens and only the select price of Ethereum because it's not relevant. I want to be the whole chart's priced over the price of Swissblock. So yellow is the price of Swissblock, and then there are 2 lines, red and brown. It's liquidity, and you see liquidity is pulled out just today. Yeah, and what happened? It's somewhere end of November. I guess a team of Swissblock. Actually, they're also from Switzerland. I should know them. Maybe I should meet them. They're doing quite smart. They increased liquidity massively, maybe prepared some good news, and it looks like organized pump. It doesn't mean in a bad sense. I mean, like it's like good marketing in crypto sense. And then high liquidity prices start increasing, but big players starting to exit positions somewhere from this. And they increased one more time liquidity. Maybe this is a crowd increased already at this time. So decided to participate in the belief, but basically liquidity is drying out. Yeah, so stay safe out there and use these tools. We keep working on also latest biggest transaction, but it's still a work in progress. I cannot give much insight on it. But wanted to share that, yeah, looks like a nice pump, but maybe 1 week is left maximum. And the thing is, I did not see it, Gary. Did they appear on our emerging trends tool?
I didn't.
Not yet. Okay, well, we can wait. Normally, everyone which stops appears on our emerging trends should be there. Just I don't know under which name, because actually I haven't seen them. I saw about Swissblock mentioned here and there, but it's rarely used under the token name. CHSB. Mostly people say, yeah, something else. So maybe it will appear under a different name. Good, but that's from my side. And anyway, we wanted to introduce you this tool because we start using it increasingly more and more. And as game request for Swissblock for my neighbors, maybe just 50 or 100 kilometers from where we are. It was interesting to cover. On tops, there are always great news. I don't know what it is. I don't follow so much them, but there should be definitely something great news.
So I think, yeah, Bryce saying in the chat, they make people buy the token to gain premium account with 20% APR USDC, but he's not sure when they release that. Okay. That could explain.
Okay, maybe, yeah. There should be, like, buy the rumor, sell the news works pretty well in crypto, 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And things like Compound announcing the blockchain, suddenly everyone thinks, or majority thinks, okay, now it's a few billion valuation, it goes down. Things like this keeps happening. Also because team who are preparing good news, they're typically gearing up for it 1 month in advance, start preparing marketing and all these liquidity pools and spreading news around. And then the news comes out, all insiders already gone. They're already dumping on newcomers. So don't be this newcomer. If good news coming, rest assured, these big holders which have been dumping, they will dump even more.
Yeah. Thanks, Max. Thanks for sharing the new tool. Guys, the new address tool is super cool. One of the use cases is what Max just showed, where you enter an address like a liquidity pool and you see whether it's drying out or not. But you can also find whale addresses, and you can set up alerts when addresses that you think are interesting start dumping or accumulating coins. We'll cover that more in in one of the next videos, but it's going to be, I think, very, very interesting, very powerful. Okay, before we end, since we were already over the 1 hour mark, I'm just going to do some very short, quick analysis into Link. One thing that I will say, I'm going to go back into my report very quickly to talk about Chainlink, because where are you? Chainlink. There we go. Okay, I will say that no matter what you think about Chainlink in the short term, this particular token remains one of the most used coins on the ERC20 in the ERC20 ecosystem. So One of the things that we've done is we've looked at the top 100 ERC20 coins by market cap, and we have analyzed their a variety of their on-chain metrics. One of the things that we've analyzed is the amount of daily addresses interacting with a particular token on a daily basis, right? So Ethereum tops the list, no surprise there. However, as far as ERC20 coins are concerned, number one is ERC20 Tether, USDC, Paxos, and DAI. Obviously, 4 stablecoins. Very easy to understand why. Number one, obviously, stablecoins just being used for day-to-day trading and remittances. And when people are exiting into stablecoins or just moving to buy volatile cryptocurrencies, it's always with stablecoins. So it makes sense that they would be more active. Number 5 then is Chainlink. So with over 5,000 addresses per day interacting with their token over the last year. Now you might think that's kind of low, but for most coins today, that's like inconceivably high. We're still very early. I don't think some people understand how early we are in crypto, that like 5,000 people interacting with a coin on a daily basis is a very strong signal, but it is. It's where we are, right? So let's check out a few metrics. Actually, I don't think the social volume matters because it hasn't really been pumping, so I would be surprised. Okay, there has been. Oh, interesting. All right. Similar to XRP, we have seen some rising amount of link mentions near the local bottom, interestingly enough. Okay, so like I said, when you see spikes in, especially these type of overreaction spikes during the price downtrend, it can usually point to a period of price recovery as well. So I want to actually see if there's been a lot of what's been going on with links exchange inflow. Oh, okay, that's what's been going on. Cool. Yeah, that's a thing. All right, so it's basically the same thing like with Ripple, huh? There's been a massive amount of Chainlink being moved to exchanges as it started to drop. Once again, like especially when it comes to the Chainlink army, man, these guys are gonna buy that stuff up, especially if if you give them an opportunity to buy it at a discount. Like, what is this? This is like a 20% decrease in the price action in the last 7 days. Yeah, they'll be fine with buying the dip. This type of market action, especially during the downtrend, yeah, it can be a pretty interesting recovery signal, similar to what I showed with Ripple, right? It's basically the same picture. A lot of people looking to sell. When it happens during a downtrend, the sell side pressure is more easy to absorb. Enter price recovery. Okay, what about daily deposits? Yep, similar. So daily deposits is the amount of addresses that are on a daily basis moving linked to exchanges, right? So when you send coins to an exchange, they never go directly to an exchange. They go through a deposit address. So this address, its only purpose in life is to move coins to an exchange wallet. So when you track these addresses, you basically track the amount of speculative interest or amount of sell side pressure for a coin. How many network participants, how many addresses, how many users are moving linked to exchanges, presumably to sell. And that's why you'll see very often spikes in deposits coincide with local tops here, 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 and then here. But they'll also sometimes coincide with like when you see it happening during downtrends, it means that the crowd is overreacting. It's panic selling. And if there's enough buy the dip pressure, it can be an interesting time to look for an entry position. So I mean, we covered this quite often. Like I always look back at our REN insight, which basically like it's because it might sound like I'm just saying that now because it looks good on a chart, but if you look at our REN insight that we wrote here, I mean, we wrote a bunch of different insights on like this, but this one always kind of stays in my mind. Just so you know that we're consistent when we are talking about this stuff. It's the same pattern, daily active deposits. We said for REN, in this particular article, we said, look, REN's been dumping for a while, and now it seems like it's approaching a price recovery level. So see here at the end, we say, Santiment is considering a REN position according to the metrics above. Why were we considering a REN position? The first thing that we pointed to was a spike in daily deposits. pointing to a little bit of panic selling, right? And it actually even increased as we were writing this insight. And it's the same thing that you're seeing today with Link, right? So yeah, these spikes in daily deposits at tops, usually a bad sign. When you see some of like a spike in daily deposits during a price downtrend, it usually points to a lot of FUD. And buying when there's blood in the streets can be a lucrative opportunity sometimes. So let me go back to Link. Since we're already like 10 minutes over time, I'm just going to look at MVRV as the last thing. Actually, I also want to look at network profit loss. So those are going to be the last two. Sorry for the slight bugginess of my Sandbase today, guys, because I'm also streaming at the same time. Usually we have another team member doing so, so it's a bit more laggy. All right, let's look at the last two indicators here. First, network realized profit or loss. Let's see if people have been selling at a loss lately. Actually, they've been taking some profits here at the bottom. Well, taking profits, I mean, they've been exiting the market. So I would actually like to see these kind of, so when I zoom out here, yeah, I would actually like to see this happening more. These types of pain markers pointing to the fact that a lot of people are scared, a lot of people setting a loss. I would like to see this because it usually tends to coincide with price recovery periods for a particular coin. So the fact that people are still currently just taking profits, okay, that's fine, it's healthy, but it sounds a bit sadistic, but I like to see a little bit of market pain when in my analysis. All right, so the last thing that I want to see is where we are in terms of unclaimed profits or losses. Like what are the current levels of price activity? So on the 30-day chart, this points to the average loss of the 30-day MV link holders, right? All addresses that have acquired link in the past 30 days, they're currently down 6% of their initial investment. We have seen it dip quite significantly lower, so we can still go lower and have another leg down. But on the other hand, there's a lot of room to grow. At these levels, there's not a whole lot of reason to sell. If you're minus 6% on your investment of Chainlink at this point in time, are you considering selling? I don't know. Are you? I don't think that a lot of people would be. And then on the other hand, if you look at the 365-day chart, long-term link holders are currently plus 14% of their initial investment. So we have been seeing this start to decline. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's fine over last year. We have been seeing it start to decline. Currently, there's still a bit of unclaimed profits that long-term holders can take and drive the price down a bit more. But it's starting to like go into a negative territory, both the 30-day and 365-day MVRV. So like I said maybe a half an hour ago, the way on-chain analysts use this metric is that the lower we go, the less incentive there is to sell, the less sell-side pressure there is, the more market pain there is, and the more undervalued the coin is, according to this metric. So currently we are still kind of overvalued a little bit in terms of the long-term profits of long-term link holders, but it's been going down. Like this is an interesting level, not necessarily the greatest. Like it's like if we were here, I would say, oh yeah, we're in a world of pain, we're gonna bounce back. At these levels, I think we can still go either way. So it's gonna be down to other metrics and the behavior of the link whales in particular, but it's not dramatic. Like we're not overvalued. Where I don't think there's a major risk of another sort of leg down or another major correction, at least as far as what the data is currently showing. It can always happen, but that would be my very quick analysis. I've only looked at 3 metrics, so take everything I say here with a lot of grain of salt. But yeah, that's going to do it for us today, guys. And this is, by the way, going to be the last stream of the year. We're going to be off, obviously, next week. So, going back online, or we're going to be live, I think, the first week of January, I believe. We'll let you know either way. I want to thank all of you that's been kind of helping us grow this channel over the year, especially those that have been here for a while, a couple of months. I already see people coming back like Bra and a few other people that have been commenting in the chat. Thank you all very much. We like making these videos and we would like to make more of them in the future. So not just these weekly streams, but actually start doing more daily content based on our metrics as well. So if that's the type of thing that you would like us to do more in the future, let us know, and we'll try to oblige. Until then, Max, any last words before we sign off?
Well, Merry Christmas, of course. There was a question, what is an equivalent? I just trying to ask the last question. Entities in profit and sentiment. MVRV maybe, or time-bound MVRV might be the best, and it's actually really also used by some of our analytics very intensively.
Yep.
It shows for the whole time, for the last 60 days, for the last 180 days, or the last year, what is the percentage of people being in profit and how much are they on profit?
Yeah, not necessarily the percentage of people that are or addresses that are in profit, but yeah, the average profit of a particular group of holders. So an average profit of a group of holders of all addresses that have acquired Link in the last 30 days, 60 days. So you can kind of look at and compare profits or loss margins of long-term holders versus short-term holders. It's MVRV on our platform.
Yeah, and time-bound MVRV.
Okay.
Good. Otherwise, it was great organizing this weekly calls. We also learn when we prepare a few things, so we need to reflect on what we're going to talk. Great. Thanks for supporting and staying with us, and wish you good luck with your decisions. It's not an easy field, but very rewarding.
Indeed.
When you build your knowledge and experience. And maybe next time I will talk a bit about Sana, our decentralized platform we built in the background. Yeah, but next time. So it's enough for.
Okay. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you spend it all with your family. And here's to less crazy to 2021, at least in terms of just real life stuff. And then, crypto is probably going to keep going crazy. So there's always going to be a lot to talk about. Thank you, everyone. And I'll talk to you all in probably 14 days or so. Until then, stay safe and have fun over the holiday break.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.